monogamy. What makes monogamy hot? So there are people who are in open relationships, polygamous relationships, polyamory. All the more power to you. That's just not what I'm up to and where my expertise lies. I have been with my partner for 8 years in our monogamous relationship, and we've been together married for 4. And so I just want to share a little bit about me and who I am. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jacqueline Urban Luna. This is actually my name. I was born Jacqueline Urban, and I married a Mexican man with the last name Luna. So my name is professionally and literally Jacqueline Urban Luna. And that's why Urban Luna Coaching is in fact my name. And I do want to share with you that it does have some special significance. Urban, we all know, is attributed to the city, and Luna means the moon in Spanish. So what I like to hold opposites. In my training over the years, I've been a yoga teacher. I still teach yoga, coaching, dealing with edgy topics that are very paradoxical in nature. And so Urban Luna in itself has this paradox, right? There's this like city girl meets the dreamer whose head is in the clouds, or aiming for the stars, right? So there's this being practical and being in the world, and this like more spiritual, like lofty, esoteric side. And that is very much who I am. I'm very interested in the body and this human life and this human journey. And I also know that I believe we're a spirit in human form. So there's this bright spiritual essential nature that we have. So all of my work really speaks to the value of both the spirit and the human. Some spiritual work will bypass the human. My work does not. My work, I actually believe that we find and experience our divinity through this human vehicle, and through our erotic body. So a lot of my work, as you know, is charged with eroticism, which is aliveness and our life force and our sexuality, our sensuality. So we're going to be getting into all of that over the next 3 days. But yeah, just to wrap up, so that's me. I love holding paradox, and I am a relationship coach. I've been a life coach for 4 years, but I've been a relationship coach just over the last year, where I've chosen to specialize in relationships, intimacy, sexuality. And originally I was talking about how to help couples work with the money conversation. We're going to circle back to that, not in this 3-day training, but just keep an eye out for that in the future, because I am going to come back to that. Originally, where I started was supporting couples with their money conversation. So we're going to come back to that. But this 3-day training is really supporting couples with their intimacy, with their sex life, and with their state of love between them. So if you're tuning into this 3-day training, I'm assuming you are here because you want to up-level your intimacy, your sex life, and the state of love between you and your partner in your committed monogamous relationship. Yeah? Okay, so that's who I am, and I'm happy to serve you. So again, if you have any questions, you can feel free to put them in the comments. So again, I'll be staying tuned. Hi Gulash, thank you for tuning in, letting me know where you are from. The island of I don't know if I can say it, Mauritius or Mauritius. Where is that? Can you tell me more? Where is that in the world? It's so beautiful. So thank you for sharing, and if anyone else wants to tune in and share where you are in the world, please do so. Introduce yourselves. Even if you're in the replay, watching the replay later, go ahead and introduce yourselves so we can all get connected to each other. Imagine we're in a room together, and it's really more of a circle. I want to share some things that have worked for me in my marriage that have brought it, like I've dissolved my marriage. I've talked about this in my post before, but if you haven't seen it, I've shared my story about how I've dissolved my marriage and recreated it with my husband at least 3 times in our 8 years together. And it really takes something to be willing to dissolve your marriage, because in that moment, there's a feeling of like, what are we now? But there's also a beautiful possibility in that dissolution, because it's saying, I'm dissolving how we have been relating in this marriage, and I'm inviting you to up level with me, is how it's gone with my husband. And he has always risen to the occasion. And so we're going to talk more about that today. So if you're like, how would I do that? How would I dissolve my marriage and recreate it? If you're feeling like that sounds like what the doctor's ordering right now for your marriage, for your intimacy, your sex life, and the state of love. And for some people it really varies. We weren't in a really, really bad spot. I will say the last time I dissolved their marriage, it was more for like, I'm ready for the next level, babe, let's do this. There wasn't anything majorly wrong. So I'll circle back to that when the time comes, when I give you some examples of what we're going to learn today together. So yeah, this is what you're going to learn about, how to single-handedly catalyze the transformation that you really want to see in your marriage so it feels hot. So it's like a really hot, sexy, juicy, alive, loving, all the things that we want in marriage. How do we create that? And how do we do it single-handedly without dragging our partner to a workshop or to read a book or like all these things? The women and people, not just women that I end up working with, oftentimes they have a partner who's very different from them. And my partner is very different from me, like in all the ways, ways that we see the world, ways that our culture we've been brought up in. He's Mexican, I'm American, from the United States. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting to bridge our differences and to create intimacy and to create a sex life that works for us and love that really bridges contradiction. Again, I love to hold paradox. So like bridging things that, how do these go together? So if you're finding that you're in an impasse in your marriage and like, how does this go together? How do I reconcile these things between me and my partner? I don't like that they're this way, or don't like the way they think this way, or I wish they did this, or I wish they didn't do that. All these things that naturally come up in marriage. So let's just back up a little bit. And I have here my little teacher tool. Hopefully you can see this okay. So we're going to talk about the framework for creating hot monogamy. So these are the top three, if I can get this to stay up. There we go. So hot monogamy framework. These are the top three things that I think are essential, that I've discovered are essential in my marriage and that I've been supporting my clients with and seeing them prove my theory. The theory is that first you must choose. Oh my goodness, this will not stay. Here we go. Maybe push the position it a little differently. Okay, so, but is the light shining? Can you see it? I can't tell. I guess we'll find out. So number one is you must choose. So I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to in consultations, and the very first issue that I can see, like from the get-go, is that you, the person who's coming to me, has not fully chosen anything. And what I mean by that is you haven't fully chosen yourself. There's a way that you've probably been compromising yourself and minimizing your desires in your marriage and having it come out in complaints, having it come out in fear, having it come out sideways, and you haven't been really choosing your desires. Two, so you haven't chosen yourself. Two, you haven't chosen the relationship. You're like waiting for the relationship to give you what you want, as opposed to just choosing that your relationship is giving you everything that you need, that this relationship is in fact for you, it's the perfect relationship for you right now. Third, that you haven't fully chosen your partner, right? So like, if only my partner will, if they would only read this book, or if they would only start really active listening, like they should be a better listener, or if they only started being a better communicator, like all these things, if only my partner did this, then I can choose them. But that's not how this works. So you have to be able to fully choose your partner as they are and as they are not currently in this moment. Okay, so there is a way of like, you know how they say don't marry potential? Well, I think that's a little bit of BS. I think that we all marry potential. what they're saying is like, you don't only marry potential, you have to be in a relationship with how the person is and is not, right? So that's what I mean, is like choosing them as they are and as they are not in this moment, and you're also choosing their potential, right? So you are marrying potential, you are also marrying what you have in front of you, and that it might not ever change. And so that's a really important question to ask yourself. If this person never changes, could I work with this? Do I choose this? Do I choose this person? Do I choose this relationship? Do I choose myself and what I am committed to creating? And do I choose my desires? That's a lot. And the conflict we come up with when we are choosing these things, and the reason we don't fully choose them, is that they can contradict one another, or they seem to be at odds with one another. And that's true, that happens a lot in relationship. But that, I want you to know that that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. This is why I put this as number one, because people end up getting divorced, but they never actually fully chose themselves, the relationship, or their partner. Only then, once you fully choose yourself as you are and as you aren't, your desires as they are and as they are not being fulfilled, choosing it all, choosing your relationship as it is and as it isn't, choosing your partner as they are and as they're not, without holding back anything, like you have to really surrender here, I fully choose. Then that's the place that you can dissolve the ways that you've been relating to your own desires and recreate how you actually want to relate to your desires. You can dissolve your relationship and the way you've been relating to your partner, how you've been showing up in your relationship. You can dissolve, and the way that your partner's been showing up, you can ask them to dissolve it with you and recreate with you, right? So that's the same thing for number three. You can choose to dissolve the way that you're relating to your partner specifically, and how you see your partner and what they're capable of, and recreating who they are for you. So choosing yourself, recreating who you are for yourself and your desires, choosing your relationship and how you want to recreate your relationship and how you show up in relationship, and choosing your partner and how you want to show up and how you relate to your partner and see your partner. So I just want to check in. Does anybody have any questions on that? Grab some water. If you have any questions, you can type it in. And then we're going to go on to number two. No questions yet. Okay. So, choosing. Most people don't do this. You think you're choosing, but you're holding back somewhere. You're living life with 80% commitment, 90% commitment, even 99% commitment. That's like me. I'm like a 90 to 99% girl. So once I really saw where I was even holding back a little bit of my commitment to myself, to my relationship, to my husband, everything changed. That's the place that you dissolve and recreate from. Okay. So number one is choose. Number two is to master the 3 power couple paradigms. 3 power couple paradigms. Okay, so these 3 paradigms are the same 3 topics of this training, right? So topic number one is the paradigm that I call the intimacy crucible. It's a crucible because it's intense and it's hot. Hot meaning like high sensation, edgy, uncomfortable. And that's why the topic for today is intimacy you'll happily die for, because I talk about how to be in this crucible of being seen. Intimacy, another way of thinking of it, is into me I see. Intimacy is revealing yourself without defense and speaking the truth. So we're going to come back to that in a second. But that's the intimacy crucible. That's why it's intense and highly sensational, because you will be feeling like you're naked and like your ego is going to die. You're going to feel like, oh my God, this is too scary, too intense, too vulnerable. And that's intimacy you'll happily die for, because on the other side of that is only more love. So we're going to speak more to that. So that's paradigm number one. Paradigm number two is tomorrow's topic, which is how to create passionate sex in the long-term relationships, right? Or WAP sex, wet ass pussy sex, right? So how do you keep your pussy juicy, wet ass pussy juicy? How do you keep it? How do you keep your sex really electric and really authentic and really yummy and nourishing and like, yes. How do you do that in the long term? So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And then number 3, the third paradigm is, I phrased it as a question for this training, is unconditional love a myth? So we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday, but around love and creating a state of love, I call it conscious sanctuary. So the third paradigm is really creating conscious sanctuary, which is love and shared purpose. So we're going to talk about how to create love and shared purpose and whether unconditional love is a myth or not. We're going to talk about that Wednesday. Okay, so those are the 3 power couple paradigms. Intimacy crucible, wet ass pussy sex in the long term, 3 conscious sanctuary. And then the last in our hot monogamy framework is support is not a supplement. So what I mean by that is getting support is not an add-on bonus. It's not an optional, like, extra. It's essential. So, for example, I'm starting a new program of purification for my nutrition and my health and wellness. And the supplements are optional. They're like a nice bonus. Like they'll give you an extra zip of energy, or they'll give you, maybe an extra, like a little more speed as you do your, this detox process. But all the essential ingredients cannot be taken out, right? So the essential whole foods I'll be taking can't be taken out. The amounts of protein and all the essential ingredients to this program. And so what I'm saying is that support, and I think of this framework really, including support, is not a supplement. These are all essential to creating hot monogamy that's really sustainable, where you feel nourished, right? And so support, I break it down into 3 things. Support is getting mentorship, having professional support, because we all have blind spots. All the people I work with are brilliant beings who are spiritual seekers, been on the personal growth path for years. They know themselves well. They've done lots of healing work. But the work that we're up to is like creational work, which is, it requires that lots of healing has taken place. It doesn't mean that we don't do any healing work. It's just not the focus. The focus of the work I do is really creating like the love life that you're craving. So getting mentorship, because you will have blind spots, even if you're brilliant. 2, having community. This one is so big. All of us are malnourished from community, not just because of COVID. COVID just amplified it. But we are all really craving community, and when we see other people who are like single-handedly catalyzing transformation in their marriage or their partnership, there's something about that it's like, oh, it's possible, it can be done. There's just something there's so much momentum, and like we don't have to do this all alone and like figure it all out ourselves. Like we can get support from community and from mentorship. And then the third part of support is your self-care structures. So what do you have in your life aside from like professional support and like a community who's on the ride with you, but just more like social, recreational? What are the other structures that you have where you have fun, where you do the things that you're passionate about? So many women and all the clients that I work with have these codependent tendencies where they start to drop off the things that they love because they're investing so much energy into their marriage. So part of my work is actually having you maybe take some less energy away from your marriage, at least the way you've been putting attention on your marriage. And we put the focus really instead on you're back up here with what you're actually choosing and where you haven't been choosing fully, right? So self-care is that third part of support. Support being mentorship, community, and self-care. Any questions on our hot monogamy framework from anyone? I'm still staying tuned to the comments. Feel free to take notes. These are all essential ingredients, and then we're going to talk specifically